Hi, and welcome to In the Real, a podcast for women by women, where we'll be talking about the hard, funny, and random things of life in any walk of life. So come have a seat at the table as we get in the real. Hey guys, welcome back to In the Real. I'm Dina. I got Marsha and Heather in here with me, and we are so excited to talk to you guys again this week. We wanted to jump in really quickly, but first, I want to just catch up with everybody.
Yeah.
Marsha, tell me about your week. How's your week?
I had a pretty good week, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. I was able to kind of stay on top of everything. I did have some life bumps, but, you know, life bumps are life bumps.
Bumps?
You bump, you go over, you keep it pushing. I mean, hey. So, yeah, I had my mom hurt herself pretty bad.
See,
Yeah,
we still need to go
right.
see her. I was actually
She
thinking
did.
about
She
her.
hurt herself pretty bad. She actually broke an ankle in several places and fractured her right. So taking care of her and just getting the girls acclimated and used to caring for grandma, who's always bringing them snacks and hugs and kisses, sending them over there to give her some love this week. We had an incident with my daughter's car. That was fun.
I saw the video on that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
wasn't an incident.
That was that was full on like
It was a
vandalism.
situation.
That was
Yeah.
not okay.
Definitely
was-
vandalism. So got to get that figured out. But other than that, life is great. Hey.
You almost sound convincing.
I know. I feel much better about my week.
I had a great Sunday.
Aw,
There you
tell me
go.
about your
I
Sunday.
had a great week. It was
How-
just a great week. It was a great word.
Yes.
Me and the kids had a good week at school.
Yes.
So, you know, it's good. I didn't get flipped off on the road either.
See, there you go.
Wow.
So
You slowed down.
But just a little,
It's
a
no
little.
joke.
But it was a good. That was good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so
So
proud
yeah,
of you.
there you go.
And Heather, you got to do book signing this weekend for the first book signing thing. No, second book signing thing
Is
you've
this-
done.
Yeah, it wasn't quite a book signing, but more importantly, I didn't flip anybody off on the road, Marsha.
Proud of you.
I did, however, cut off my brother's in-laws on our way to church.
Oh no. Oh no.
And they followed me to church, and I was like, why do I... Oh. Hi, welcome
flip
from
'em off.
Kansas. But I didn't flip them off. So, you know, hey, good, because my mother was in the car, so I didn't didn't flip them off.
Oh man.
No, I wouldn't have done that anyways. But, yeah. And then, so then we had the book event.
Yeah.
It was like, come and meet the author at, Oktoberfest in Lee
Yeah.
Summit. And... It ended up, well, publicity is publicity. There's
Yeah.
nothing
True.
wrong with that.
True.
Unfortunately, the weather was not the best at
yeah,
first.
it was raining.
Like, we got
was
there in
hailing.
between, we got there in between rainstorms. Was able to put stuff up outside, but we were in, like, the kids area.
Okay.
And my book is not a kid's book.
No, it is not.
So, like,
Yeah.
little kids would show.
Not quite.
I had pictures, too. Not
Aw.
bad pictures, but, like, you know, I'm like, ha, ha, ha. Oh, the bounce house is down the road. Like, don't stop here.
Oh, man.
But it was good. I mean,
Good.
I got to talk with the shop owners a little bit. I got to,
Good.
you know, any kind of relationship
So
with.
exciting.
Yeah, it was a good building. And again, Sunday was good.
It was.
Sunday was good. It was a good word. It was a good day. I got to watch football.
Chiefs won.
Yeah, they
Man,
did.
they won.
They
My
won all right. But
Spanked the Bears.
yeah, it was kind of bad. I felt bad. I have a couple Bears friends.
Yeah. Sorry, Chico.
I know. I
Sorry, man.
I may have sent a funny meme or two to the poor guy, and then I apologized later on because it just got worse. And I was like, you know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna do that to him, poor guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
He was really good natured though, because I saw where he posted something about it. Right, it was like, you know, please be respectful to our privacy at this time of morning or something of that nature. And
I
was
sent
like,
him that meme.
Did you?
Oh,
I was like, okay, I'm done. And I
That's
said, I'm done now.
That's
No
fantastic.
more.
goodness.
Well, he used it and
Yeah.
he ran with it. And
He
so
was
good for
gracious
him.
about it. So
That's cool. Well, you actually pulled something pretty solid out of this weekend that you wanted to bring to the table today and wanted to discuss and get
Yeah.
in the real with. So go girl. Let's
yes.
talk.
So our at church,
Yeah.
our pastors were talking about relationships, mostly about marriage, but you can glean stuff from that for just friendships and everything. And as a person who is not married, I do have a hard time trying not to click my brain off when they say the marriage word, just because I'm like, well, this doesn't apply. But it does. I mean, especially if I ever want to down the road be in a relationship, this is kind of stuff I should maybe at least follow.
Yeah.
And one of the statistics that they pulled out, was that 70% of people who are currently married, say they are happier than they were before they were married.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going with the other 30%, but I don't need to go there.
Sure.
But then they were talking about their marriage is on a decrease, like it's on a decline. Like there are 30 or something.
67%.
It was
Since the
crazy.
70s.
Yeah, it's dropped 60%. It's dropped 60%.
Insane.
And yet you're more happy supposedly when you are married, but yet that is dropping. And I thought, why would we why would a person want to shoot themselves in the foot, really? I mean, in reality, in the happiness factor. And I'm not saying that everybody should be married, because again, I'm single. I don't necessarily. Well, we're just keeping it open. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm not saying yes or no. God is healing my heart in many things. But I was.
Marcia and I know what she likes, so if you guys.
I have prerequisites. But.
Amen.
But I was thinking about, like, what is hitting marriage so hard? Like, what is it that's that's creating such problems, not just for all marriages, but just for people, whether they're married or single. And like one was, oh boy, you guys are not gonna like, some people are not gonna like this, is feminism. And I'm not saying the women and men shouldn't be equal, because we are, and biblically that's the truth. However, if I am better than a man, I don't need a man, and so therefore I don't need to be married. And that type of feminism,
It's gross.
it is. It's I don't want to say a perversion, but it's a twist. It's a twist on what is original, what God created us to be.
Yeah.
Because now I'm not equal to a man, I'm above them.
Right.
And I lived like that for a long time. That was my mentality for decades. That I'm not just one of the guys. I'm just a little bit better than one of the guys, because I can do all they can do, and also I'm a woman, so I'm still better than them. I'm not saying it's anyways, that's transgender.
Yeah.
When you begin to change genders, you harm the gender you're becoming by saying you are that.
Yeah.
But you also harm the gender you're leaving,
Come on, Heather.
because you're saying, I don't want to be a man, or I don't want to be a woman, because it goes both ways.
It does.
But when you do that, you're saying God made a mistake.
Man.
And how can God be sovereign and good and make a mistake like that?
Man.
And then when men are men, so often we tell them they're not allowed to be. We call them toxic.
Yeah.
We call them, overly manly, extra, uncultured, all sorts of, when they're just being men.
Yeah.
Men were created to be masculine.
Yes.
They were created to laugh at funny jokes that some women don't find funny, like fart jokes, guys. I'm sorry, but it's true. Like, they're created to be the people who protect. They were created to be the people who are supposed to and designed to help build a family,
Right.
and protect it.
Yes.
Right.
And when we say you can't do that, or your role is now limited, we cut their feet out from underneath them, and then we say, I want a man, but what kind of man? Because you have killed off the idea of man that you want.
And because of, like, almost, like, they intertwine, don't they? Because it's like, you've got the feminism that comes in and says, like, well, anything you can do, I can do better. And you want to say, no, man, because what's happened is you've now officially lost the honor. You've lost respect, integrity. Because as much as, yes, we can do a lot of the similar things, I'm designed in a completely different manner than Luke is.
Right.
Like, there's things I get to bring to the table that are strong, but there's also things that I bring that are soft and that are tender. And it's like, you're Cecil, right? Like, he's about as manly as man gets.
Yes.
He is. And it's one of those where, and bless him, he is in a house full of females, and he holds his own.
So many girls.
But there's nothing more beautiful than having that daddy come in and be able to just shepherd and lovingly guide all of his kiddos, plus his beautiful wife, right? And the Word of God says, like, when you have a man that's running hard after God and is walking according to different things of that nature, right? When he is loving, he's gentle, he's kind, he's the fruit of the Spirit, but he's also strong. He walks with wisdom, discernment. You know, it's easy. We have the scripture that gets abused, and some of our listeners probably are like, y'all are making me cringe right now. And it's like the abuse of that submissive word, right? But when you have a man that submits his life to God, that is so much easier to follow in line with.
Right.
And so that feminist thing starts kind of falling away, because it's, I was a single mom for so long. Marsha, you were a single mom for a season, you know, and it's like, we had to be mom and dad. We had to be feminine and masculine. And it's one of those where, I don't know about you, but God had to take me to the carpet for quite a while while he was undoing all of the things that feminism, like toxic feminism, let me say it that way, right?
That's fair,
the toxic feminism. Because I love strong women. I am a strong woman. All three of us are very strong women. But it's a thing of respecting and honoring the person in that position and saying, you know what? I get to walk with you. I get to come into this space with you. I get to link my life up with you and create something that is even greater than what it would have been by itself.
Oh, yeah. Well, and like I got to see this firsthand with my mom.
Yeah.
I mean, like, my mom was a single parent until I was 6.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, 6, like, it was a while ago. But I do remember certain scenarios and certain things, and seeing her have to deal with a broken down car, and seeing her have to deal with, you know, when the rent is a little short and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then seeing her marry this man who wanted to marry her, not just because he loved her, but because he loved me too. And he said that to me from day one. And I almost didn't know how to take that for years. That was it was a hard thing to take, because I wanted a dad so bad, and having one person step in and say, "Oh, I'm willing to be that." It was hard to let that down. Because I was afraid. But seeing my mom change because she had someone who linked up with her and said, you know what, this is a load that you don't need to carry alone anymore. We're going to carry it together. We're going to, you know, we're going to move far away from the rest of our family and start a family, because that's what the Army does. but they did it together. There was no more, and at no point in time since has there been a time where they've been doing this alone. They've been together, even deployed, even you know, pulled apart by the military and stuff. But like, it's kind of it's a beautiful thing to see that happen, and to see that in other people's lives. It's kind of, sorry guys, it really raises the bar for you, as far as I'm, you know, looking around going, you have a certain standard set by my father and by my friends' husbands that I'm not going to let lower, because I want us both to be happy at some point in time. I don't want you to have a low standard for me either.
Right.
Like, I'll be feminist enough to be fair.
But I think that kind of puts us into the reasoning behind why we have the situation that we have. That a lot of people are basically walking in fear. I know fear was just a big thing and a big deal for me. So when you talk about let's just kind of go back to being a single mom. And doing all the things we had to do. We had to make sure that, you know, the tire was changed, or just everything that you would have to do as a single mom.
Yeah.
And then getting married and having to trust someone to take on those responsibilities and do them in a way that would be sufficient for you, I guess.
Yep.
Was scary.
Yeah.
So I know that me and my husband bumped heads a lot
Yeah.
early in our relationship because I was a single mom and I did it by myself.
Yeah.
So having to invite in this man who, just like Heather said, that her dad came in and welcomed her as well.
Yeah.
My husband did the same. You know,
Yeah,
I had 2
mine
kids.
too. Yeah.
And he came in and no one knew until we told them that
Aw.
they weren't his biological children.
Yeah.
But he did it. He did it well. But for me, I had to make a decision to say either I'm going to say, well, I'm a woman. I've done it before without you. I can do it now. Or I can go ahead and accept this blessing of a man
Yes.
and allow him to be in the position that God has allowed him to come into my life and my
Right,
kids' life to be.
Right.
So we at some point have to let go of that fear of what it's not going to be or what it might end up being
Yeah.
in order for God to just be able to come in completely.
Yeah.
So, there's just so many things that, Heather mentioned the transgender
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak a lot on that because I don't have a big understanding of why,
Yeah.
of the whys.
Yeah.
And when I don't have a big understanding of the whys, I just don't. But I will say this.
Okay.
My belief is just, again, fear. Fear of stepping into who you are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's just easier to sit in this place because there's not much expected from me.
Right.
So if I'm a man, born a man, and it seems to be that there's just maybe not many expectations for me if I become a woman, then I'm going to be a woman.
Shoot.
Or if I was a woman,
Yeah.
just take me, who was used to doing it all. I'm
Yeah.
like, you're not going to tell me what to do.
Right.
I'm going to hear me
Right.
roar.
Right.
I'm
right.
going to become a man because I'm going to let everybody know. Don't
Right.
step on me. But that's fear of what? Not having control. Fear of
For
just,
you not
letting
knowing whys, you have
go.
some
Yeah.
good stuff.
Right?
No, genuinely.
Seriously.
Yeah,
That's the deep
Over here,
stuff
like,
right
let's-
there.
let's-
Yeah,
twist off
because
on
I don't
that.
know everybody's reason why.
But it's
Right.
true. Yes.
You
I
know,
hear,
and
I
I
hear
don't
what
want
you're
to just
saying.
plug that in. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
I hear what you're
Well,
saying.
yeah.
I think I think what you did is you hit a lot of roots though,
yeah.
because a lot of people would give you surface wise,
Mm-hmm.
and whether we could probably have all the whys for all of the different people, and everybody
Right,
would have
right.
something different.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a thing of fear is a very good root.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good root, but you guys
Well,
hear what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying.
Yeah,
But
it's a
I mean
solid-
that would be
it's a
a
thing,
very
yeah.
solid, consistent
Mm-hmm.
root, I would think, across the board.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, that might be the single moms or the singles.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say in that space? Because you had some really good follow-ups with this, Heather, as far as like contentment, or what would be some
Yeah.
thoughts?
I had to learn when I got saved, and I stepped out of a very different type of series of relationships. I had lived as a lesbian for 10 years.
Yeah.
So no man was good enough for me, and the idea of getting married was not just laughable. It was terrifying. I won't lie, it's still a little scary.
Yeah.
It's, and I'm not living my life looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a way
Yeah.
put it? It took a long time between me and God for that to even become a thing that he could drop in front of me, that I wouldn't just be like, I'm out. I'm gone.
Yeah.
I know women. I don't know men.
Yeah.
But to learn to be content for who I am and who I am becoming,
Yeah.
not to be content to stay where I am,
Right.
but because I am becoming someone with God.
Yeah.
My singular focus is on God. And if it stays that way, and he at some point leads someone into my life and their focus is singularly on God, then we're going to be able to match up a lot better than if I try to go out and go hunting, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And I will never be content if I think that a relationship, a marriage, even children, anything, if I think that that is what I will be content with without God, then it will never content me. It will never fulfill me. It will never satisfy me.
You.
And then you will just put these pressures on these people, and that's not it's not the pressure that they're ever intended to keep. They can't fulfill that either.
Right.
That's so
I can't.
true.
I can't go and find a spouse and say you have to be my God,
Shoot.
like, or a child. I mean, and you see this happen with at times,
That's a whole
and it's
nother podcast.
right. I'm
Sincerely.
sorry, we won't go down there. But it
Sincerely.
is. You have to begin to find who you are with God. If that relationship is steady,
Yes.
not perfect because we're not perfect,
Right.
but it is progressing,
Mm-hmm.
then that is so much better than out and looking, because you can look and look and look and look and be discontent whenever you find anyone.
It's true.
Anyone.
True.
I mean, and I don't think that necessarily every person should feel like they need to be looking. I have friends who have they've prayed about it and they've really felt God has called them to celibacy, and they are absolutely and utterly content with that.
Yeah.
And that is great. And I'm not going to sit there and point out men or women to them. Just, hey, if that is what God has called you to be, good on you. And if that's what God has called me to be, then good on me too.
There you go.
Like, I'm just not going to freak out either way. I can't.
that.
Why now would I freak
So
out about
good.
that?
Especially after
Everything that's happened in my life.
Man, come on.
Like,
Literally.
why now would I freak out about that?
And I
So-
think that that's one of those undue pressures, right? That
Right.
just that we experience. I remember talking to, I want to say one of the young adult pastors or something, and he was talking about, let's maybe have some sort of conversation to help get these young adults ready for marriage and stuff. And I said, but why would you do that? Why would you set them up in that kind of scenario? Because not every one of them need to be married. Not every one of them, and they don't need that kind of pressure. You know, if it's something that maybe you want to offer, hey, maybe here's help you with communications 101, relationships. Let's get some bare bone basics, kind of a lot what Luke and I talk about in our other podcasts as far as just that communication. You know, it's for marriage, but it's for
Critical.
relationships.
It's
for
critical.
it's for everybody.
Well,
and it's one of those where you want to say, why would you don't put an expectation on something or somebody, and then they start feeling like I'm less of a person because I am not XYZ.
Right. And you'd kind of hope that some of them had learned that from their parents at church. Now, I get that not every young adult or youth coming to church has a family that does that, but you kind of think that a lot of them hopefully would have learned that already through watching their own parents. So they don't necessarily need that right away.
And you
But-
said something too, Heather. I'm sorry. What are you doing? I'm
So,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, but you said contentment.
Yeah.
And that, that just struck something with me, because in contentment, we try to find our feeling in people. And when we try to find our feeling in people, of course, that is when it goes south, because they're not meeting us where we wanted them to meet us at. So becoming content in who you are, so that you're not putting those burdens on whoever it is or whatever the situation may be, and then getting frustrated, and then we end up having the issues that we have in our nation, and in schools, in houses, in homes, and wherever we go, just in our community in general, because that spirit of contentment is just not there.
Right.
We're just so discontented, and we're angry because we're not getting what we're looking for.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, fear and contentment, they really can't live together.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to choose one of the two. Like, you can't be in fear and content about it.
Oh.
You can't be content and in fear. It just, life lesson for all of us, because that hit me actually kind of gross right there.
So for us to see the decline from the 70s, we're in 2023. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just wrap our hand around that for a second. That's a long time. But to see a decline over 60% of marriage, why do you guys think that is?
Yeah, discontented.
I mean, just sincerely, what would you say? Like, again, you guys are hitting some really good deep roots. Let's talk about just some of the real aspects of it. What do you think has caused people to say, you know what, I don't, because you said people are happier
when they're married.
Yeah. Or even if they're in a good community, they're in a good relationship, they've got friendships around them, because we're even seeing where people are like, lone wolf solo, peace out, I'm going to do this on my own. And you're like, what? Like, you can't do that, dude. Like, that's not how we're designed. We're not designed to do this life by ourselves. We're just not.
True.
And so what would you guys say? Like, I mean, you nailed feminism. That is something that did come up on the scene roughly around that time.
Yeah.
You know, I think almost just that tearing down the family unit. We saw where fathers started being pulled out of family units. You know, it got encouraged to not have a dad in the household.
Yeah.
Because then the government will take care of you. That's a whole other world.
Yeah.
But that's a reality. That's a truth.
And
you
then
know,
you got latchkey kids.
Latchkey
now you
kids.
can just take care of yourself. Here's a key.
Yeah.
After school program.
Yeah.
I think it became more of a decline. Like you said, there was feminism.
Yeah.
There was the idea of you don't necessarily need a parent. You just need one,
Just
right?
one.
You don't need both.
Yeah.
And then after a while, it was family can be whatever you decide it is. It don't even have to be your actual family.
Yeah.
So you can just make it into whatever it is now. You can make it just you. You don't need anyone else. It's just this kind of, and yet all the while your mind and your body and your heart are screaming, no, I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go into a whole can of, you know, goodness gracious, what's going on now, like with mental health issues, with, you know, suicide rates climbing. You see all these things that were once considered healthy are declining. And I don't just mean marriage, but the family unit.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing an increase in mental health disorders and in suicides and in just people just literally walking away and disappearing.
Yeah.
And just don't want to even be part of anything anymore.
Right. Right. Right.
And it just, I mean, we could say that it's just because people have constantly do this all throughout history. We've decided we want to be our own gods, and we're failing. And it isn't a thing where God is up there happy about it.
No, it's breaking his heart.
This is yes, and yet there are places, there are families, there are communities that are becoming closer and closer together and more well knit.
Yeah.
And it's the reason we don't see it happening is because it's not in our culture.
Yeah.
It's in the cultures where Christianity is usually under the most persecution. And we don't want to think that, because I'm like, I kind of like being able to, you know, go to church. Like, I don't want to think about the increase and decline of all this stuff correlating, but it is a masterful plan by the enemy to crush and destroy, because that's his plan, to kill and destroy.
Yeah.
And now he's like, well, I've put them on a course, and so often we're doing it for him.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Well, you also got to think about the advancement in technology.
Yes.
So there's just so much more at our fingertips. And I mean, you have influencers. You just have everything, and everybody has their own opinion about everything.
Right. Like us.
And
We have opinions.
but yeah, it's true. And if it's not
Yeah.
the right opinion, because we can come to the table and just kind of, you know, we got to make sure we're careful to not just be chatty and just throwing out our opinion, because there's
correct.
people
True.
that are listening, and some people listen just for that opinion.
Yes.
They're not going to the word for themselves to figure that thing out.
Right.
So if there's so much at our fingertips via technology, social media, and whatever, and whoever, and just giving out and spewing what they think, then if that some popular influencer is saying, you know, you don't have to be married, you know, single women can do it alone. Who says a woman needs a man?
Right.
Yeah. I believe that. I live in a house with 3 Gen Zs, and Gen Zs ask a lot more questions than what I asked when I was growing up. And if you don't have a reasonable response, they're going to go based off of what the influencer said.
You are correct.
If they don't have an anchor, if they don't have a truth.
Yes.
And that's just what it boils down to. If there's not a truth, which is the truth, God's holy word, then they're going to go based off of what they think and what they believe. And I will say, living in a house with Gen Zs, I've turned my thought pattern around in some cases because, things they do have to make sense. But at the end of the day, if your sense doesn't line up with the truth, it's nonsense.
Right.
So we have to make sure that we're understanding in the midst of it all what it is that, we're doing. But just back to that question, I think the technology came in as well. If we're not careful with anything, it could destroy us. Like Heather, I mean, the enemy's plan is to destroy. It's to steal, kill, and destroy.
Right.
So we have to be careful with everything.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking.
What was that scripture verse?
The Proverbs?
Proverbs. I was like,
Proverbs
what was it? I was like, what was that one?
I think we said Proverbs.
And then I put it on my phone. My phone's not in the room.
I think it was Proverbs 14:12.
I think so. And that was
in a way, if you're, there's a way that seems right that only leads to death.
But yes.
And if we're not careful with that, I just believe God's word. But there is a lot of ways that seem right. And I shared that passage with my younger daughters, Friday. And then they came back and it was confirmed on Sunday morning.
I love that.
Yeah.
And the message that there's so much out here that just looks all, unicorn and mermaidy. It just looks beautiful. It is great. It's just this big fantasy that we want to be in and embrace. But you have to be careful because it's going to lead you to death if you don't grab hold of the truth and what's right.
That's right.
So
that's right. So I would say each one of us, let's speak to one of the women that we talked about. So Marcia, to the married mamas, to the married wives. What would you speak to them? What word or words or even a prayer that you would speak to their hearts right now? Because we know what it is to be moms. You are a mom of 12. You know what it is to feel that overwhelm of whatever. What would you speak to them right now?
Be still. Be still, because you can wear these hats and you can walk this walk, but if you're not careful, if you're not still, you'll get caught up in that title versus who God called you to be.
Come on.
And if we're not walking in who God called us to be, we're not going to be effective as a mother or a wife or anything else that we've been called to do. So knowing who God called you to be first, be still, listen to his voice before you decide on a conversation with your husband, before you sit down and do homework with a kid or have to correct a kid. What is God saying? What does God want?
I love that.
Don't go based off of ways of the past or things that have been done, but what is God saying to you for you and your family?
I love that. All right, Heather, what would you say to the singles?
Don't live in fear. Fear of your past. Or what you think the future looks like. But, Marcia, like you said, find God. Because finding him, it changes everything. It kills fear. He kills fear and offers life, whether that is with a spouse at some point, whether that is by yourself in a community of other people, because you're not meant to be alone. So if we say that we're staying single, we're not cutting ourselves off from everyone else around us. I mean, like, I hang out with you guys probably a lot more often than just hang out, but like, I hang out, I know both kids, like but
your family,
I know I do birthday presents anyways. Like, don't be afraid
Yeah.
to do and just be who God is calling you to be.
Amen.
It doesn't have to be what you think it is, but I promise those steps are scary.
Yeah.
But worth it.
Yeah.
But they're totally worth it.
Yeah.
And just find God.
Yeah.
Just find him.
I love that. And I'll talk to the single moms because I remember distinctly one day when I was carrying my beautiful brown-eyed girl up the stairs, and I out loud said, God, I can't do this anymore. And there's a lot of mamas out there that are saying, I can't do this anymore. And I literally heard God say back, yeah, but I can. And so allow God to be the head of your house. Allow him to learn. Let him love you. Learn how to let him take care of you. Allow your life to be molded into this beautiful, tender, precious, strong woman of God. Because he will not leave you or forsake you. None of these.
Right.
None of the mamas, none of the singles that we're talking about. He's not going to leave you or forsake you. He's got you right there in the palm of his hand. He knows the characteristics of those kids, and he can help give you direction on how to guide them. And we're asking that God gives favor, that he brings other people into those places, even in the families that are complete or the singles, right, that are kind of hanging out, that he so intricately puts people in our place, and we're not afraid, like you said, Heather, we're not afraid to have people love us and come into that space with us.
Right.
Because that's one of the things that I have said to you guys time and time again. Thank you for trusting me to come into your world and for y'all to come into mine. We have to love each other and love God enough to know that he is going to bring us nothing but good gifts. And so I'm going to say, let's leave them with that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're going to see you next week in The Real.